Welcome to Not2 Reads, an audio library of revolutionary texts. Neo-Colonialism, The Last Stage of Imperialism, by Kwame Nkrumah, Part 9. Seven. The Oppenheimer Empire. The king of mining in South Africa, indeed in Africa, is Harry Frederick Oppenheimer. One might almost call him the king of South Africa, even the emperor, with an ever-extending empire. There is probably hardly a corner of Southern Africa's industrial and financial structure in which he has not got a very extended finger of his own or the hook of some affiliate or associate. These fingers and hooks attach the Oppenheimer empire firmly to other empires as great or greater. Mr. Harry Frederick Oppenheimer is director, chairman, or president of some 70 companies. These directorships, as well as those held by important colleagues and nominees, whose names recur monotonously on the boards of an ever-expanding complex of company boards, give the lie to the fiction of respectable separateness, even where there is no obvious financial connecting link. Dominating this complex of companies are the Anglo-American Corporation of South Africa Limited and Consolidated Goldfields of South Africa Limited, from which radiate affiliates, subsidiaries, associates, immediately or more tenuously connected, which would provide in themselves a most interesting trade, investment and banking directory. A list of direct interests, by no means complete, would include Anglo-American Trust Limited, African and European Investment Co. Limited, Amalgamated Collieries of South Africa Limited, Bamangwato Concessions Limited, Central Mining Finance Limited, Consolidated Mines Selection Co. Limited, Coronation Collieries Limited, Consolidated Mines of Southwest Africa Limited, British South Africa Company Limited, Anglo-Transvaal Consolidated Investment Co. Limited, De Beers Consolidated Mines Limited, Free State Development Co. Limited, Middle Witwatersrand Western Areas Limited, Rand Selection Corporation Limited, Rand Mines Limited, Rhodesian Anglo-American Corporation Limited, South African Townships Mining and Finance Co. Limited, Vereniging Estates Limited, West Rand Investment Trust Limited, Johannesburg Consolidated Investment Co. Limited, Rhodesian Broken Hill Development Co. Limited, Transvaal and Delagoa Bay Investment Co. Limited, Rokona Corporation Limited, Union Corporation Limited, Tsumeb Corporation Limited, Selection Trust Co. Limited, Tanganyika Concessions Limited, Union Minière du Haut-Katanga S.A. Most of these are holding or investment outfits established to coordinate a specific group of activities, but having their fingers in many other pies. It is difficult, almost impossible at times, to distinguish a delimiting line of operation. Trying to unravel the participations of the Anglo-American Corporation and Consolidated Goldfields of South Africa, for instance, leads often to the same involvements. Yet there must be a demarcation line, not only to preserve the semblance of autonomy, but to avoid a duplication of tasks and responsibilities in the interests of industrial and financial economy and profits. As a matter of fact, there is a constant rearrangement of organizational structure, either as a result of the acquisition of new interests and projects, the abandonment of exhausted mines, the expansion of existing companies and alliances, but above all, in order to forestall or meet competition, to streamline the structure and to correct the tax position. For instance, in 1961, Consolidated African Goldfields of South Africa Corporation underwent a thoroughgoing reorganization with the intention of concentrating its administration in its various spheres of operation. Reporting to the annual meeting of the corporation's activities for the year ending 30 June 1961, the chairman, Sir George Harvey Watt, fixed the assets at stock exchange value at a total of approximately £58 million. 66% of this total was represented by interests in South Africa, 10% in North America, and 6% in Australia. Most of the remaining 18% was accounted for by interests in the United Kingdom. To supervise these interests and the planned absorption of others, a number of changes were made in the controlling companies, so that the group structure of Consolidated Goldfields of South Africa Limited now has the appearance shown in Chart 1. Explaining the structure to the shareholders at the annual general meeting held in London on 13 December 1962, the chairman confirmed that the operational supervision of the group's interests in South Africa was the responsibility of, quote, our wholly owned subsidiary, Goldfields of South Africa Limited, which is resident in Johannesburg, end quote. When, in 1959, the group acquired both New Union Goldfields, since renamed Goldfield Finance SA Limited, and the South African HG Proprietary Limited, their management was also vested in Goldfields of South Africa, although the shares of these companies were held directly by the parent company in London. In Australia, responsibility for administration of the group's operations is exercised by Consolidated Goldfields Australia Property Limited. Goldfields' principal investment in Australia is represented by a majority interest in Commonwealth Mining Investments Australia Limited, quote, a mining finance company which has a broadly based portfolio in Australian, North American, and other overseas investments, end quote, according to the chairman's report. A majority interest in another Australian concern, Associated Minerals Consolidated Limited, gives Consolidated Goldfields a big break into the rutile and zircon industry. Associated Minerals acquired all the outstanding shares of ZR Holdings Limited, a company originally formed to take possession of Zircon Rutile Property Limited, together with that company's share in and advances to other companies. About the same time, Associated Minerals bought the entire share capital of Titanium Materials and the assets of Rye Park Scheelite. Experienced enterprises like Consolidated Goldfields do not allow others to benefit from their efforts. So, quote, while Associated Minerals was building up its holdings in the rutile industry, end quote, stated Consolidated's chairman, quote, we felt it necessary to strengthen our position in Wyong Minerals, another rutile producer in which Commonwealth Mining already had a substantial investment. Accordingly, our wholly owned subsidiary, Consolidated Goldfields Australia Property Limited, made an offer in February 1962 for 50% of all shareholdings in Wyong Minerals other than those held by Commonwealth Mining Investments. This offer was successful, and Wyong Minerals is now a subsidiary within the group, end quote. Congratulations are owed to Consolidated Goldfields on their perspicacity. Their position in the rutile field is now preeminent. In the words of their chairman, quote, the total rutile productive capacity of our subsidiaries now represents close on 1/2 of the total free world capacity. The expansion program which Associated Minerals now has in hand should maintain its position, end quote. May we be forgiven if the qualification free in this context looks a trifle dulled to us? Rutile is a much sought-after mineral used in the manufacture of titanium pigment. The demand had the effect of increasing its open market price by some 50% in the financial year 1961 and 62. Zircon's prices remained stable in spite of considerably increased supplies. A partnership with Cypress Mines Corporation, a New York company, and the Utah Construction and Mining Co. of San Francisco has resulted in a joint enterprise named Mount Goldsworthy Mining Associates to explore and work the potential of iron ore deposits of Mount Goldsworthy in northwestern Australia. The construction of a 125-mile railway is involved to end up at Deposition Island, where a major seaport is under consideration. Sir George Harvey Watt was pleased to inform Consolidated Goldfields shareholders that, quote, negotiations are in progress with the Japanese iron and steel industry regarding the market for this ore from Mount Goldsworthy, which is thought will be competitive in price and quality with any now available in Japan, end quote. In the chairman's words, the company's operations in Canada had, quote, taken a distinct step forward, end quote. Their subsidiary exploration company, Newconex Canadian Exploration Limited, was joined by a second, Newconex Holdings Limited, a decision was made to allow the public to enjoy some of the fruits from the exploitation of their country's resources by foreign concerns. Accordingly, 36% of the capital was offered to Canadians. Those who took up shares were doubtless delighted to know that 28.33% holding of Neo-Colonialism Canadian Exploration Limited in the Mount Hunter exploration will be turned over to the holding company. A high-grade deposit of lead zinc, with some silver, discovered in the South Yukon region, inspired the chairman to an admission of its being, quote, most gratifying that so soon after its formation, Neo-Colonialism holdings should be presented by Neo-Colonialism Exploration with such an encouraging prospect, end quote. Moving southwards to the United States, a new company called Goldfields American Corporation was formed in 1961 as a wholly owned subsidiary of Goldfields Mining and Industrial Limited. Goldfields American took over the New York organization, set up originally in 1911, whose main function in recent years had been to provide administration for Goldfields Tri-State Zinc Incorporated and Buell Engineering Co. Incorporated, as well as secretarial services for the Fresnillo Company. Fresnillo Company was reorganized in 1961, when it transferred 31% of its diverse Mexican activities to Metalúrgica Mexicana Peñoles S.A., under the Mexican government's drive to have domestic control of its basic primary resources. A handsome compensation of $5,500,000 was awarded to Fresnillo, payable over a period of 5 years, for the cession of this holding to Compañía Fresnillo S.A., in which it holds 49% to Peñoles' 51%. Fresnillo still retains a 99% interest in Sombrerete Mining Company, owning another gold-silver property in the state of Zacatecas, Mexico. With the, quote, coming to the end of their profitable lives, end quote, of Tri-State Zinc's 2 mines in Illinois and Virginia, a replacement was sought by a new mine in the New Market area of Tennessee. This mine Tri-State are bringing into production in accordance with a joint venture agreement with American Zinc, Lead, and Smelting Co. Under this agreement, Tri-State will mine and mill at least 20 million tons of zinc-bearing ores owned by American Zinc near Tri-State's New Market property. Profits from the output of a treatment plant, designed to provide a daily capacity of 3,600 tons, will be distributed on a basis varying between 50 and 60% to Tri-State and 50 and 40% to American Zinc, until all capital has been returned, after which profits will be distributed equally. American Zinc's operations are closely connected with the mining and reduction of zinc and lead ores in several of the American states. It also has a 10% interest in Uranium Reduction Co. and 50% in American Peru Mining Co., among several other affiliated and jointly owned concerns. Buell Engineering Co., the other beneficiary of Goldfields American Corporation, has been assisted to expand its fabricating facilities by taking over the entire common stock of the Union Boiler and Manufacturing Co. Consolidated Goldfields' interests in the United Kingdom are now grouped under Goldfields Industrial Holdings Limited, formerly HE Proprietary Limited, as a wholly owned subsidiary of Goldfields Mining and Industrial Limited. Its main operations are carried on through its own subsidiaries, Alumask Limited, Ambuco Limited, and Metallion Limited. Alumask is a producer of die-cast aluminum casks, notably for the brewing industry. It has lately expanded into the production of aluminum high-pressure bottles for commercial uses. In 1962, Alumask, in the words of Consolidated's chairman, quote, broadened its interests geographically and industrially, end quote, by the acquisition of an Australian subsidiary, Lawrence and Alumask Holdings Limited, and of 2 United Kingdom subsidiaries, the Non-Ferrous Die Casting Co. Limited and Brass Pressings London Limited, already well established in non-ferrous die casting and brass pressing. 2 other UK organisational instruments radiate from the London Directorate. These are Anglo-French Exploration Co. Limited and Mining and Metallurgical Agency Limited. Anglo-French Exploration, a wholly owned subsidiary of Consolidated Goldfields, is an investment and financial business holding, among others, interests in many of the principal gold mining companies in South Africa. These interests also cover Northern Rhodesian copper mines, as well as tin mining companies operating in the United Kingdom, South Africa, and the Far East. Apex Mines Limited and Ruiberg Minerals Development Co. Limited of South Africa and Anglo-Burma Tin Co. Limited are among its principals. Mining and Metallurgical Agency Limited were formed to look after the distribution of ores and purchase of supplies, as well as to run a shipping, insurance, and general agency business. 50% of its capital is held by Consolidated Goldfields. Goldfields of South Africa Limited is the wholly owned subsidiary of Consolidated Goldfields that is responsible for administering the operations of the group throughout the whole of South Africa. These are of a monumental size. For investments in the South Africa gold and platinum mines remain the major asset of the Consolidated Goldfields Group, and its principal source of income. At 30 June 1961, gold mining accounted for 71% of the group's quoted investments, and the chairman assured shareholders that since the end of the Second World War, Consolidated Goldfields had invested capital sums approaching £450 million in the South African gold mines. Exploration is continued in South Africa and Rhodesia, and is in close collaboration with West Witwatersrand Areas Limited, a company which Consolidated Goldfields floated in 1932. Since then, West Witwatersrand has itself become an important South African finance mining company with major holdings in the gold mines of the Far West Rand and Orange Free State. West Witwatersrand produced in 1962 gold valued at over £97 million, which was twice the size of its production of 10 years ago. The Harmony Gold Mining Co. Limited, in which West Witwatersrand has a holding of 1,247,564 shares through its subsidiary Westwits Investment Limited, also achieved a record gold output. Apart from its interests in the Transvaal and Orange Free State gold and platinum mines, Consolidated Goldfields has substantial holdings in Southwest Africa Co. Limited, and in Rhodesia in Bancroft Mines Limited, Nchanga Consolidated Copper Mines Limited, and Rhodesian Anglo-American Limited, all falling within the sphere also of Anglo-American Corporation. In Ghana, Consolidated is interested in Konongo Gold Mines Limited, which has a concession of approximately 20 square miles in the Ashanti-Akim district. On an authorized capital of £675,000, not fully paid up, a working profit of £110,587 was achieved in 1960, increased to £130,378 in 1961, despite an advance in working costs from 86 shillings 6 pence per ton to 88 shillings 2 pence per ton. In 1962, Konongo Gold Mines Limited informed the Ghana government that the operation of the Konongo gold mine would become uneconomic after April 1965. The company were therefore contemplating ceasing operations just before that time. In view of the loss of employment that this would mean, the government decided to purchase the mine in order to provide continued employment for the Ghanaian employees. After protracted negotiations, a purchase price of £150,000 was paid by the Ghana government, and the mine is now under the management of the State Gold Mining Corporation. Capitalized at £15 million, Consolidated Goldfields made consolidated profits before tax of £6,826,000 for the year 1960-61, with dividends absorbing £1,729,299. The year 1962 proved for Consolidated Goldfields the most profitable yet in its operations, resulting in a consolidated profit before tax of £7,030,000, while, in the chairman's own words, quote, "Another satisfactory feature of the accounts is that dividends and interest exceeded £5 million for the first time," end quote. Consolidated Goldfields' income comes largely from the specialist services which it provides to companies within its own group and those within its associated groups. Varying considerably in size, they number over 100, and the total market capitalization of those quoted on the stock exchange exceeded £170 million at the end of the company's working year of 1962. It is by these means of investment and management that much larger incomes are built up than from the actual production of the mining and processing of raw materials. That is why so many of the more important mining companies, not alone in Africa, but throughout the world, have coalesced into holding and investment concerns behind whom and among whom stand the most important figures in the banking and financial world. Here we have touched only on the bare bones of the Consolidated Goldfields' skeletal structure. The flesh and brawn which clothe it are set in layers of rich fat that have created a huge corporation bulge, smugly admired by the owner but ominous to the lean, starved African observer. 8. Foreign investment in South African mining. It has been estimated that over 50% of the foreign capital invested in Africa has been poured into South Africa. British investments probably total nearly $2,800 million, and American investments closer to $840 million. A 1957 U.S. government survey of American overseas investments shows the single most profitable area was in the mining and smelting business of South Africa, whose profits are higher than from any comparable investment in the United States. The high profits can be explained largely by the cheapness of African labor. According to the 1962 Statistical Abstract of the United States, U.S. miners earn an average of $2.70 an hour, which is 27 times the amount earned by South African miners. Dominant in South Africa's economy is the Anglo-American De Beers Group, part of the empire of Harry Oppenheimer, which extends into southwest Africa and Zambia, and is linked with mining companies in many other African states. The value of the empire has been enhanced by the discovery that uranium can be produced from the residues and slimes which surround old gold mines. Extraction of uranium from gold ores and slimes has brought South Africa into the world's leading place as a producer of uranium. The working of slimes accumulated over the past 60 years, together with those from current gold production, is helping to prolong the life of many exhausted gold mines. In 1956, 8 million pounds of uranium oxide were produced in South Africa, providing exports valued at 39 million pounds. This leaves out of account the quantities that go to the Atomic Energy Board of South Africa, with whom several of the mines have contracts. The profit made from the production of uranium oxide is running ahead of that derived from gold extraction. In fact, quote, the working profits derived from uranium extraction exceeded those derived from gold extraction on the 17 producing mines taken together, and on 5 of them, there actually offset working losses incurred in the production of the gold, end quote. Harmony Gold Mining Co. Limited is one of the more important gold and uranium producing companies within the Anglo-American Consolidated Goldfields maze of interests. Its authorized capital of £5 million has been paid up to the amount of £4,500,000. Secretarial services and offices to the company are provided by Rand Mines Limited, a company that gives executive, administrative, and technical services to the South African companies of the Central Mining Rand Mines Group. Chairman of Harmony is P.H. Anderson, a deputy chairman of Rand Mines. Other directors in common are Mr. R.E.M. Blakeway and N.W.S. Lewin. Chairman of Rand Mines is C.W. Engelhard, who is also chairman of Rand American Investments Property Limited, and patently has a watching brief for the United States investors who more and more are infiltrating into primary materials extraction in Africa. All of Rand American's 2,371,049 issued shares of £1 each are held by De Beers Investment Trust Limited, now Ranzel, a wholly owned subsidiary of Rand Selection Corporation, since the recent rejuggling of the Rand Group. Rand American owns nearly all the preference shares and a substantial interest in the issued ordinary shares of Central Mining and Investment Corporation Limited, as well as a substantial interest in the issued ordinary capital of Rand Mines Limited. The American link confirms the tie-up forming the Central Mining Rand Mines Group. Consolidated Goldfields and Anglo-American Corporation interests converge in harmony, in which both have appreciable holdings. By the grace of the South African government, Harmony was able to acquire undermining and mineral rights over some 8,000 acres of land, as well as freehold ownership of farms covering approximately another 10,000 acres. These holdings being rather more than Harmony could cope with, it was found profitable to sell the right to mine precious metals on 2 portions of its areas on lease until 1967. This right went to another Anglo-American concern, Virginia Orange Free State Gold Mining Co. Limited. Harmony's remuneration for this friendly gesture to a sister company was a minimum £3 million payable quarterly free of interest. Virginia Orange brings us once more into contact with the American marriage to South African mining, our first example being Mr. C. W. Engelhard, an American Democrat, who, as president of Engelhard Industries, refiners of precious metals in the United States, sought after steady supplies to keep his plants working. He found them in South Africa, where he linked up with Oppenheimer, and later branched out into baser metals and other fields of profit. Mr. Engelhard, following Mr. Oppenheimer's inspiration, has also found a niche in the Canadian, Australian, and Colombian mining industries, and distributes his finished goods in Europe through companies established in Paris, Rome, and London. Mr. Engelhard's qualities, as well as his services to the extension of American interests abroad, are recognized in his membership of the U.S. Foreign Policy Association. With Virginia Orange, we are brought near to more considerable American influence than Mr. Engelhard is able singly to produce, by the association of the powerful Kennecott Copper Corporation with this gold mining and uranium extracting company. Kennecott has interests in Virginia Orange, which it passed over, together with those it owned in the Mary Spruit, Orange Free State Gold Mining Co. Limited, to the reorganized concern formed in 1961 to acquire those interests. The new company bears the combination title Virginia Mary Spruit Investments Property Limited, and the rearrangement will enable it to fulfill an outstanding uranium contract with the Atomic Energy Board of South Africa. Mr. Engelhard is a member of the Virginia Mary Spruit Board, by virtue of the holding directly bought into it by his Engelhard Industries of Southern Africa Limited, and his connection with Rand Mines Limited, an Anglo-American corporation, which together with another 2 associates, Centramic South Africa Limited and Anglo-Transvaal Consolidated Investment Co. Limited, form the parties to the new company. Financiers and dealers in mining and other properties in the Transvaal, Anglo-Transvaal has a subsidiary, Anglovaal Rhodesian Exploration Co. Property Limited, which operates in northern and southern Rhodesia, its mineral prospects including coal, copper, chrome, and nickel. With capital authorized at £4,337,500, not fully paid up, Anglo-Transvaal is operating on an unsecured short-term loan of £1 million from the National Finance Corporation of South Africa, a private organization with which Anglo-American corporations' friends of the international investment world are closely associated, including the House of Morgan, which has a substantial financial interest in Kennecott Copper. Among Kennecott's extensive mining engagements in Africa is a 90% investment in Anglovaal Rhodesian. Primed by Morgan friends, Kennecott knows how to take care of its manifold concerns. Hence, as consideration for cession of its interests in the Virginia and Mary Spruit mines, it is to receive an amount of £3,500,000, payable in 5 annual installments. This does not, however, sever Kennecott's connection with these valuable Oppenheimer-Engelhard properties. For the American Copper Corporation will be entitled to an interest of 20%, up to a maximum amount of £2,500,000 of any of Virginia Mary Spruit's net surplus that may accrue after the installment payments on the cash consideration of £3,500,000 have been fully met. This entitlement, however, will be forfeited in the event of Kennecott taking up at a later date from the members of Virginia Mary Spruit 20% of the then issued share capital. These are the tortuous means by which financial clinches are held. It is obvious that the way is being kept wide open for Kennecott's re-entry into the heart of the company. Meantime, it can still feast at the table. Kennecott is a foremost copper producer in the United States, whose shares on the futures market are valued by knowing operators at around $1.48 billion, even though its present capital of 11,053,051 shares of no nominal or par value, issued out of 12 million authorized, have been given a stated value of only $74,806,424. The possessor of copper mines, concentrating mills, smelters, refineries, fabricating works, and railways, it has smelting agreements for much of its ores with American Smelting and Refining Co., with whom it has two subsidiaries in common. American Smelting is a producer itself of copper, as well as of silver, lead, zinc, and gold in the United States, Mexico, Canada, and Peru. Its interests extend to Australia and Nicaragua, and has arrangements with Cerro Corporation, Newmont Mining Corporation, and Phelps Dodge Corporation, all of whom have substantial investments in South African mining projects, including the Tsumeb Corporation of Southwest Africa. The American chemical industry enters the Kennecott field of operations through a joint venture with the important Allied Chemical and Dye Corporation. The Allied Kennecott Titanium Corporation is to produce and sell titanium metal, and has put up a pilot plant. A further breakthrough has been made by the acquisition of 25% in Western Phosphates Inc., 7.3% in the common stock of Molybdenum Corporation of America, and 50% in the Garfield Chemical and Manufacturing Corporation. There has been a branching out into mineral exploration in Brazil and Mexico with two subsidiaries, Kenran Pesquisas Minerals S.A., 60% Kennecott owned, and Cia Kenmex S.A. respectively. Another subsidiary, Braden Copper Co., works a copper property in Chile. Expansion into Canada is by way of Quebec Columbium Limited, formed by Kennecott with Molybdenum Corporation of America to investigate a columbium property near Montreal, and Quebec Iron and Titanium Corporation, owned 2/3 by Kennecott and 1/3 by New Jersey Zinc Co. This latter company is linked up with the great oil organization Texaco Inc. in a joint enterprise, Texas Zinc Minerals Corporation, for the construction and operation of a uranium processing mill in Utah. A uranium mine in Utah was bought in 1956, and the mill began operations in 1957, also treating ores from other mines. The uranium concentrate produced is being sold to the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission under contract. The New Jersey Kennecott venture in Quebec Iron and Titanium is going to prove extremely valuable, as titanium is a metal that does not melt at supersonic speeds, and is accordingly in high demand for use in jet aircraft. Greece also figures in Kennecott's sphere of interests, where its 95% owned Kensbastos Mining Co. Limited works asbestos properties. In West Africa, it has a 76% holding in Tin and Associated Metals Limited, operating a columbium and tin property in northern Nigeria. Columbium from this mine provides most of the world's present production. Our examination into Harmony Gold Mining Co. Limited has led us a long way round the world and into realms of power and prodigious wealth. This seems inevitable once we begin to trace the external interests that intertwine Africa's exploitation with that of many other parts of the world. Coming back to Harmony, it is impressive to note that this company, having a gold reduction plant capable of dealing with 200,000 tons of ore a month, also boasts a uranium extraction plant whose capacity is 120,000 tons monthly. This plant began operations in April 1955. Attached to it is a sulfuric acid plant with a daily capacity of 120 tons, which started production in January 1960. The uranium extraction plant was erected under arrangements made with the Export-Import Bank of Washington, USA, and the UK Ministry of Supply. A loan was obtained from the Atomic Energy Board of South Africa for the entire capital cost of the plant, exclusive of the capacity extension from 80,000 to 120,000 tons monthly. The company is under contract with the Combined Development Agency, as well as with UK Authority alone, to supply various quantities of uranium at fixed prices, under arrangements which will allow it, without incurring extra cost, to cover by June 1965 the capital expenditure on plant. During the year ended 30 June 1960, Harmony milled a total of 2,116,000 tons of ore, which yielded 857,7 2,794 ounces of fine gold, providing a working revenue of £10,810,496, with a working profit of £4,090,677. 2,067,100 tons of slimes treated yielded 974,349 pounds of uranium oxide, giving an estimated working profit from uranium, pyrites, and acid of 2,680,233 pounds. Accounts for the following 6 months to the end of 1961 showed that 2,285,000 tons of ore milled resulted in a working revenue from gold of 4,458,177 pounds. Treatment of 2,138,300 tons of slimes produced 953,100 pounds of uranium oxide, giving a working profit from uranium, pyrites, and acid of 2,284,647 pounds. For the working year 1961 to 62, the dividend paid was 55.5%. Net profit for the year 1960 to 61 was £6,674,739, and dividends paid accounted for £2,497,500. All this can be regarded as most satisfactory for shareholders on a fully paid-up capital of £4,500,000. Messrs. Engelhard and Oppenheimer must bear a special regard for their friends in the Export-Import Bank for their ready aid in this venture, in a country that makes a mockery of human rights for its non-white inhabitants. Such ease of assistance, if extended to the less developed new nations of the continent by an international banking organization, would help lessen the gap that the developed countries are forever deprecating, but which, by these stealthy means, they serve to widen between the have and have-not countries.